Welcome to Hello Chaos, a weekly podcast exploring the messy and chaotic minds and lives of founders, entrepreneurs, and innovators. And we are back with part 2 with Ebony Sullivan, COO of Cassie Electric. I call her a founder because she's taken over mom's trade electrical contracting business and has put her family to work and has tripled the growth of that company. But Ebony and I had a conversation around words and some of the landscape of how do we desensitize conversations around DEI and affirmative action and inclusivity and feminism. And so we're going to check out and continue our conversation with Ebony on this subject. And it's like, I know we said DEI is a bad word, and it kind of leads us into the other dirty word of feminism.
Oh boy.
Because here's the thing, we talk about, DEI, affirmative action. I mean, again, these were help break these barriers, right? Let's avoid the discrimination, these biases that we have.
Yeah.
But there should have been a sense of solidarity among white and black, black and brown women, just as females, because we, and I think I think the reason why there is a breakdown of white women that are shouting the loudest against that, it's like this lack of empathy of our black and brown women, other female founders. You're being oppressed because of systemic, institutionalized racism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But women are oppressed because of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just, and I think that's where it's that lack of connection of, it's also systemic, being in a patriarchal society, just like it is, oppression or systemic racism. Still oppression.
Yeah.
So, however you look at it, it's like, why isn't there that connection, that empathy to go, you know what, you can't climb. You're hitting some kind of a ceiling, whether that may be in the workplace. It could be in your own, family. And we're hearing these absurd discussions and statements on in a national theater of, if you don't have children, you're less than.
Yeah, heard that. I just want to know, do I get extra credit for 4? I mean,
it's like, do I get more?
I mean, do we get more because we have some, or
do I get double because I'm also a business owner and a mom of 4? Do I get like extra credit?
We get no credit, actually. We fall all in the same bucket, unfortunately. And that's what I think, if we all can understand that, is that we are all in this fight together, whether your fight is patriarchy or it's systematic racism. We're fighting against the same big bad wolf. Right. And if we're all on the same team, and if we can find the commonalities of the fight, that's what inclusivity is about, right? Is that, yes, I can be different. I'm an electrician, you're a marketing, executive. We own, but we have one thing in common. We're both business owners. If we can put all the other things aside when it comes to that, we're all being oppressed, right? This is no longer about yes, some are worse. When we start talking about equity and equality, yes, there are some that have it worse than others. But at the end of the day, we are all in the same fight. The same fight.
Rising tides lifts all boats. I mean, that's what I don't. It's like, you're taught to be a good leader, to be a good business owner. You're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So I even put that in the sense of our community, our economy. Like, you're only as strong as so again, when the tide goes out, when times are bad and you see who's left naked and vulnerable, that's where, and I know a lot of the chambers, organizations, they have accelerators and incubators and all of these programs to help. But my fear is they're still, they're helping us gain access to knowledge, to resources. But we've got to protect those programs, right? We got to protect, and it's got to be real. Like, don't just go, you can't just go through the motions of, okay, here's the knowledge. Okay, send us your stats.
Good luck.
And good luck. But there's got to be that follow up and follow through of, at the end of the day, if you want to see these businesses succeed, if when the boat or the tide goes out and you see your disadvantaged communities laying there, more vulnerable, more naked, that is the kink in your chain, right, to the economy. So how, versus I think what we do as a community or an economic community, we focus on the 1% unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's only about 1% in a market, it's a small versus
high drivers. That's
it's
it.
the high drivers.
Quick results.
But that's not going to stabilize your economy. 60% of your economy is through
small business.
Is small. It's the smaller businesses, but do that incremental. That's economic inclusivity. That's economic mobility.
Yes.
It's to help the next generation. And, I'm just, with the word, I was like, talk to somebody, I'm like, I'm a feminist. And they were like, oh, I literally saw their butt clench when I said it.
Yeah. We're in some real different times now, Jen. Some different times. You got to be careful about the vocabulary words.
I know. And I was like, when did it become a dirty word? I was like, my mom was a feminist. I mean, I come from a very long line of strong, assertive female, but I'm like, I don't get it. And they're like, no, that means you want to be better. And I said, it is about equality. It doesn't mean I am overshining. I want a fair shake.
It's all about fear, Jen. People operating from a position of fear. So they fear what they don't know. They fear what they don't understand. And so they don't understand strong women who are going to go get what they need and what they want. They're providers for their family. They work alongside their husbands, not behind their husbands.
That's right.
That we are teammates. We're partners in this together. That is a very foreign thought for some people. They believe that there's women that should be at home taking care of their families and that we shouldn't be doing the things that we're doing. We're in a very male dominated industry in construction. We are the only woman minority electrical contractor in the state, in the entire state of South Carolina. Not that there are not other women owned electrical contractors out there, but we're the only minority, electrical contractor. So again, it is when you start using words like feminist and equality and things like that, I mean, that takes people back to civil rights and they start getting squirmy, right? They're like, Martin Luther King's daughter, like, hold up.
I know.
We don't want to talk about that,
But it's like, I want to take the word back. And it's like, it's just a person who is saying, give me my right according to my merit.
Yes.
Don't see me as a man or a woman. And it was created because there were no rights for women. I mean, that's where the work people were literally fighting for the right to basically make a choice of what to do. So, it's about equality, which I don't understand why that's even a bad word.
Yeah. Because it goes back to like accountability, right? Then people have to acknowledge where they are first. When I teach my course, we talk about the GPS and where are you now and where are you going? Well, in order to get to a space of equality and equity and inclusivity and feminine rights, like all those things, you have to acknowledge where we are. These things are important because today these things are non-existent, right?
Right.
Because of where we've come from. So history plays a huge part in acknowledgement of how we got to where we are today. If we don't acknowledge that from the beginning, there were laws and things established that excluded people, right? Women, people of color, just of all the things, they were genuinely excluded.
Like, no enter.
Like you were not even a thought when we were writing this Constitution, right? You were
Right.
not even a part of that. The
That's right.
people who wrote this did not consider their wives to be hardworking women. They were not considering Black people to be a part of the ecosystem other than to crop and to be slaves.
Right.
They did not
Property.
write
Right.
it
We
with the
we
intention of us being a part of it.
Right. And you talk about like as we've evolved, I mean, that's where you get the bills. That's why those amendments are happening.
Exactly.
And we need to protect those because
And we have to protect them.
because it's taken our Constitution that didn't have that language, but we've recognized that as a America as a brand. I kind of relate it to like a brand. We look at evolution of brands, and this is America is an old institution and a brand.
Yeah.
As it evolves, you've got to make sure that you are inclusive to everybody within that umbrella.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And so we can't roll back. I mean,
wasn't that what the Revolutionary War was about from the beginning? I mean,
Yeah.
you wanted to break away from the old guard to create your own inclusive,
right.
But then you went back
Society. Right.
You went back to doing the very thing that you wanted to break away from Britain from, right? Like,
Right.
so you wind up transforming into the very person, very entity, very much the brand that you wanted to break away from.
Right.
And so if we don't acknowledge that, we are not who we were when you did these things, and we don't start talking about how we can be inclusive of all the people that were left out from the beginning, then what are we talking about? We're still doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
And I fear we're rolling things back. Like we are. The conversations that are happening are frightening.
Yes.
And especially when people don't realize, women like you and I, we couldn't even get our own credit card.
Yeah.
Without
your husband, you couldn't even have a bank account without
you couldn't even have that's right. Without your or a male cosigner. I think it was like 1988. Women could get a loan without having a male cosign.
That's just so very recent.
Correct. I was a junior in high school when that happened. So I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. It was like 1995 or 4. It was women could get their own credit cards without having either a parent, like if you were young, but to have a husband, a man cosign. So we could get a loan out before we could even get a credit card.
A credit card. That's crazy.
And that's recent. Like to me, that's
very recent.
That's very recent. But and you brought up a good point of like, when you went and got your loan, it only happened because you had somebody, I'll call a sponsor in the community that said, you need to do business with her.
You need to help her.
You need to help her.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, when we talk about whether it's feminism or inclusivity, economic mobility, again, it's all about rising tides, having equality, whether you're a man or a woman, right? Yeah. So that means we need to have men in this conversation. Yeah. So we need men to stand up for their moms, their sisters, their girlfriends, their wives, their daughters, and say, I'm going to change the game for my future generation, for my kids or my grandkids or, my sphere of family.
My sphere of influence.
Influence.
I mean, I've got a really great mentor, and I love to shout him out, Chris Moore. He's with Carolina Power. And all of that makes me think of him because there are doors that were open only because of him. They would not have ever considered to either give us credit, to even to even look at us, to even consider us as a real business, even though we had everything, all the I's dotted and T's crossed. Had he not said, here, I want her to be in this conversation, or invited me in the room and made sure that not only was I invited to the dance, but he brought me to the circle, right? Like, if it wasn't for that, it doesn't matter how prepared we were. It
That's
didn't
right.
matter if we had all of the credentials. And like I said, it was the first day of school with your backpack on and your new outfit. It
That's
didn't
right.
matter if we did not have this man to sponsor us, to say, I stand behind her and with her,
That's
so
right.
that people would do business with us. So again, it's like, what good is your credit score? What good is all these other
All
things?
that.
Sure, they qualify you. They
They're just
do.
but you're not, you got to have somebody
You
to
got
take
to.
your hand and get you off the wall
Yes,
and
ma'am.
bring you in the
And bring you
center.
to the dance.
And that, that's a good point. I think, when I look at like our early successes, because we had key men influencers who believed in,
Yep.
and Bright and
Mhm.
and me. And I mean, like one of the senior executives at iHeart National. I mean,
Yeah.
there is no way, we were doing big media buys, and I'm like, ooh, we couldn't get um, a home equity, but we couldn't get a line of credit because we weren't in business yet 3 years, all the stuff. But it was like, we got to float. We need a spread of cash flow
Yeah.
because we're doing, we're buying $1 million in media that I'm not going to get paid for my clients for, 90 days.
Yeah.
So I need a spread.
Yeah.
And what media company is going to allow me buy at that level and not want to have cash up front?
Yes. Yes.
So I had somebody that came in, he was like, "We're gonna give you credit."
Yep.
And
Same.
did the same thing and
Yeah.
allowed us to be able to serve our first, like, 3 to 5 clients when we were in business before we had hit our 3-year mark.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have been able to scale. And I've got about 3 or 4 examples of that, of, like, they, um sponsored us to
Mhm.
get us in to be a vendor at one of, a Fortune 100 company,
Mm.
sponsored us in purchasing
Yep.
and said, no, she needs to be a part of it. She hasn't met the requirements yet, but we're
Yep.
going to endorse her.
Yes.
So we need men a part of
We
the
do that.
conversation.
We absolutely
We,
do.
they,
I don't
they,
think that people think that when you say feminist, they think that you're excluding men, and that's
no,
not it. That's
no,
not at all
no, it's
what we're saying.
equality. We just want to be, whether you're a man or a woman,
Mhm.
you want to be seen for your merit
Yes. That's
and
it.
have equal opportunity.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I was like, so I don't know if you've read, here's a book that's fascinating. It is called, Invisible Women.
Mm.
It's so data, right? I'm a nerd. Um, Data is fundamental, right?
Yep.
From economic development to healthcare to education, public policy, we rely on a lot of numbers and data to allocate resources, figure out product of, like, how do we develop these
Yep.
products? How do we create new medicines and innovations
Mhm.
to serve, like, I mean, manufacturing. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever innovations, it helps you make crucial decisions, right? I mean,
Right.
right? That's what we stand on, in marketing is we let data inform our decisions.
Right.
But so much data. This book is just fascinating to me. If you're into
Yes.
this thing, it just amplifies the world we live in. We live in a patriarchy. I mean, it just amplifies this because the data that they go into in this book, that these studies, they just go deep dive, that a lot of data fails to take into account gender because it treats men as the default and women as the atypical.
Mm.
So there's so much bias and discrimination are baked into our systems. So, it examines like home, workplace, the public squares, your doctor's office, how medicines, how products are developed, from our shoes to our clothes. I mean, it is fascinating. And it has unearthed this book has unearthed a dangerous pattern in data and how the consequences, how it's impacted women's lives. I
Mhm.
mean, it is a fascinating, like, product designers use a one size fits all approach, from everything to pianos to cell phones to voice recognition software, how we design cars, how we design, I mean, even like I think one of our friends in our minority business community, she's trying to help in the construction market. have clothing that fits women,
Women. Mhm.
that are, safety equipment. And
Mhm.
it's because everything is designed to fit men. So you've got like major safety
Yes.
issues
Yes.
that's just one sector. Medicines. I mean,
Yes.
ineffectiveness in women's health care. Um, how we drive, like how our cars are built, they're designed for men. So when we get in a car accident, like the airbags,
It's
everything is
too high.
designed is for men.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like the medical research is like the biggest like data fail in terms of like gender bias. Because that's where, I mean, you're like the perimenopause, menopause, like,
Mhm.
but also just women's healthcare, what's it?
Yeah.
I can't say that word. But just how we are treated for a lot of different women's healths. It's why we're a lot of, there's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of mistreatment,
Mhm.
misdiagnosis. And
And I
it
mean,
just shows that.
even deeper, Jen, like if you dig deeper into that, while all of those things are absolutely true, if you dig deeper into the data, all of those things impact Black
Black
men and
and
women
women.
even
That's
worse,
right. That's right.
right?
Oh, believe me,
Yeah.
and I can't remember. I'm gonna have to. I'll tag it in the episode, but I'll find it, and you might know the book, because I have, in before I started Bright, I did a lot of research for different hospitals, healthcare systems, research like
Mhm.
cancer centers, where just to uncover like issues in the community. And it was interesting of, to get inside the Black community to get feedback, there was a lot of fear. And
Yes.
I went and did a whole bunch of research to understand like the history of that. And there's a great book ugh, that uncovers, because it's the was it
Tuskegee
John,
experiment.
yeah, that, and then Johns Hopkins was basically going into the African American, the Black community, and getting people to come in and taking their stem cells,
Mhm.
and we're using it. And is that
Henrietta Locke.
Henrietta Locke? Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a great book for anybody if you just want to like really understand. That goes through. I mean, it affected generations, but just the fear that
Yeah.
the Black community has around
Mhm.
healthcare professionals.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so, we had to design unique ways to just gather information. I mean, I was going into barbershops, and I was going into
Yeah.
churches, and I was going
Yeah.
into, and to uncover like, where is like, I don't go there. Nuh-uh,
Nope.
nope, I don't go there. And I was like, well, why? Do we need to have a hospital right here? Nope. It's like the fear of the white jacket.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
it has not worked in our
and
community
they're, no,
favor.
and it,
Look at COVID.
right,
Most recently, look at COVID and look at our community and look who was impacted throughout our community as it relates to the disparity of access, just the clean hospitals and clean water and clean
right,
facilities and just then when you introduce a new vaccine and who's the first to be experimented on, and
right.
then we find out later on just genetically what the impacts are, to
Right.
our lineage. So it's scary
That's right.
and it's heartbreaking.
Because that was developed
Hmm.
with not just the race, but also the gender.
Exactly. We were
And
not
why
taken into consideration,
no.
that is the underlying tone is that across the board from the beginning of time, there was a group of people who decided that these are the only people who were a part
Who matter.
of this system, this ecosystem that mattered. And they did not include women and people of color. And so because of that, you see the long-term residual effects of it. And if we don't start open, candidly having conversations about how we need to start from the beginning, things need to be readdressed. We can't
Right.
stop talking about it because it makes people uncomfortable. It
That's
is
right.
intended to be uncomfortable.
It needs
Because
to be
it's the truth.
uncomfortable of like, because when you boil it down, this is where I've had those conversations with my circle. When I hear in a circle of white men, and they hear affirmative action, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
and I was like, why? Will we lose jobs over them? Did you?
No.
No, there's no stat that shows
No.
if you were qualified.
Yeah.
All it did was a fear-based of, oh, there's just more competition for the first time.
I
So
mean,
you
our
need to,
former president just said it. He says,
yeah,
immigration is taking Black jobs. But what
right.
are Black jobs? What are Black jobs? We want to know where they are
They
so
are.
we can go apply for just those jobs that have been set aside just for Black people. Like,
well, Kamala just turned Black, so
so it's all of that fear.
listeners, I am totally sarcastic, and
Yeah, I totally know. But it's just, again, it goes back to the lack of knowledge and people intentionally putting their head in the sand and not
right.
wanting to talk about the uncomfortable things, the things that really matter. And when we talk about economics and equity and mobility and all those things, we have to start at the beginning, not in the middle,
Right.
and not keep selling us your dream about what it's going to look like down the line. But let's talk about how we get here so we can fix it.
And let's start grabbing people off the wall and bringing them to the party, bring them to the dance.
So invite them to dance with you so you can show your friends that look, she knows how to two-step too.
That's right. That's right. So okay, so you and I, we've got full of ideas.
Yeah.
What should we do? That's why I'm getting ready to pick up the phone and call, have a conversation with WeBank to go, what should I renew? Tell me why I should renew my membership. Why should I renew my certification? Because it costs money. It's time, money, and energy and resources. So, we're pretty scrappy when we need to. So if I'm not getting business over here, I got to cut it somewhere over here. So that's, I'm not going to cut my marketing because it's working.
Right.
But what it's going to work because I'll just fish start fishing in another pond. But I can eliminate my expenditures to go, where can I spend that money elsewhere? And if I'm not seeing any activity under, I love being a part of the chambers. I love the connections, the camaraderie, but I have to be honest and go, well, what am I getting out of it? I feel like I volunteer more for their programs and services and help uplift those programs and services that I'm getting in return.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
And maybe I shouldn't think that, but I'm like,
So, I sit on the board for the Greenville Chamber of Commerce, and, I'm a fierce advocate for commerce. I love business. I think that everything that is related to business in some facet has its benefits, and then at the end of the day, each individual person has to make a determination of what's good for them and their business and what isn't. When I think about my commitment to some of these organizations, including WeBank, when in this specific economic hard time, we've trimmed the fat. So we've looked at our return on the investment. And if it takes me more to not only am I a member, but now I have to spend more money to be engaged on all different events and conferences, and I'm not seeing one contract, one return. I know how to build relationships. I don't need to be a member of something to do that. Right? We could use LinkedIn at this point and find out who the purchasing agents are at some of these corporations and make connections with them. And we can do the old-fashioned back to cold calling and trying to get past the gatekeepers, because I personally have not seen the fruit of the labor that we've put into some of the organizations that we're members of. And they're great for some businesses. Yes, they are. But for our need, for even like ABC Carolina, I think they are a great organization. It is for American Builders Association. And there are people in there who are big contractors and subcontractors. And for their business, it makes sense. When you start talking about small business under 5 million, under 10 million, you start talking about those guys, and you're talking about breaking in again to a whole nother circle. So the first circle that you had to penetrate is to be able to afford to even join. right? Now you finally can pay the membership. But once you break in, there's a whole nother level of engagement that you have to have money to play in the arena with them, you know. And if you're a small business and you're just trying to grow your business, some of those places are just not conducive to growth because you're
No.
spending more than you're making just to make relationships, you
Right.
know.
And
And
there's another pond that you can go and fish in, right?
and I'm just going to take my ball over here and play in this park for free, right?
That's right.
Because it may take me a little bit more time. It may give me, you know, it may make it a little bit
That's right.
bumpier road to navigate. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm not paying to make friends, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
and that's how a lot of these programs are. It's intended for you to pay for popularity, you know, and the more
Right.
money you spend, the more access you get, the more connections you have, and if you don't have that money, you're trying to grow your business, then you're just in the room. You're not actually at the table or in the
That's right.
dance or anywhere. And
You're
you have to determine if
you're
that's
just in the building somewhere.
that's it. And I don't want to be in the building, you know.
No.
And I would rather build my own building than
That's
to
right.
have to keep begging people to allow us in. So when you say, what do? I think we find the people who want to do business with us, and we do business with people who understand where we are and what we can do. And we don't have to, you know, do any kissing up or having any
Right.
certifications and attachments to our name or paid to play. They just see that we give good quality work. We're good people to work with. We're paying attention to detail. We're flexible. We're reliable. We're dependable. We do things on time and budget safely. And when you see that, then you just do work with us for that reason. But all
Based on your merit.
that's it.
That's it. Based on
That's
your
it.
merit. That's all
Not
we
a
want.
certification, because
Right.
it's not at this point, it has not benefited, in my
Right.
personal opinion, to
And
be with all these certifications.
right. I mean, the intent was good. I mean, I think if these organizations that really say you need to be certified, and it's like, I just want to elevate to go, then what are you doing to help give relevance?
Yes.
Give relevance to that that label.
That's
And give power to it. But right now I feel like it is
none.
we've seen no return, but also it's almost when I show it, you know, and I'm like, hey, if this is meaningful, like if it's meaningful to your organization, we are WeBank certified. And it's interesting. Most of the people go, no, doesn't matter.
Everybody I have spoken to that is in the corporate sector, that is exactly their response. Well, we have our own personal internal diversity goals, but for this particular project, that is not something that matters to this client.
Right.
So we're just looking for the best number.
Right.
And
So until like these organizations, I think that's where, whether it's a chamber, whether it's the WeBank, you know, chambers working more of a local level, SBA's working at like a national level, WeBank's working at a national level. I think until they start elevating again those conversations to go, okay, companies, you know, or you know, public and private sectors, if it's meaningful,
show it.
that you show it. Like, don't just have a diversity supplier conference and don't do anything with it, because you're actually hurting those businesses, because they've got to take time, money, and energy out of their business to go and participate in something
Yes.
that is just for your corporate newsletter to go, look what we did, pat us on the back because we have a DEI program that doesn't do anything for the community.
Oh man, listen, Jen, that is everything right there. I mean, we've participated in so many minority business events for it to bear nothing from us. They want you to come and speak. They want you to show up. They want you to be a vendor. They want you to do all the things. But when it's time to advocate, when it is time for them to say, listen, my name's behind this certification, right? Like, WeBank should be saying, our name is behind the certification. This needs to mean something when our constituents are members to this and put this label on their business. It should mean something.
Right. You know, and it's so funny that you say that. So last year I had a conversation with somebody over at WeBank, like our I think, regional chapter. And I said, give me the numbers. Like, are you guys monitoring? You have corporate members that they are just being members of your organization, to me, just to kind of put it's a tick of a box.
That's it.
That's it. I was like, but they're like, no, no. Are you in the are you in the portals? I was like,
Yep.
I'm in hundreds of portals. I've been to all of your, your shows.
Mhm.
I've been followed up. I'm in there. I've received not one RFP. Oh, well, marketing is not really one that they go after. And I said, well, I think you need to then follow up to go, well, how many RFPs did they send out in
Period.
marketing? And did they source like, was it a closed RFP? As in they sent it to the 5 people that they want to do business with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're emailing that we're trying to nurture them. I mean, we've got, ongoing communication, but it's like
Nothing. It's like
nothing.
empty hole.
It's
It's
an
just
empty
a
hole.
dead end. Yeah.
And it's the same thing I'd said to, we're a part of all the chambers in the state. And I've said that to the state and also the state commerce. And I'm on, the US associate commerce.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Same.
because, but I'm like, what is it getting me? Like, we're spending a lot of money in memberships of, and like you said, I don't want to
No
pay for
return.
connections. There's
Yeah.
no
That's it.
return, but I believe in it. I want to, I enjoy the friendships but I've already made them. Like,
You've already made them.
do I need to move on?
In the group? Yeah. There is some value in having your name associated with some things,
Yeah.
and you'll find that. But outside of that, there's no true data to support being actively engaged in some of these organizations that are using minority status as its leading factor. Like, it's not enough companies out there that it matters to. They
Right.
don't have enough people in the database. And I'll even say this, because this has been my experience. I think that the presidents, the leaders of a lot of these organizations are truly committed to having what they believe is a diverse and inclusive market of vendors and
Yeah.
contractors to work with.
Yes.
I do think, from my
I
experience,
agree with you on that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
as it trickles down into the day-to-day operations of how these things are being actually executed on, is where we find the murky water.
Yeah.
Because while you're saying to your team, we want to be inclusive and diverse, you're not explaining to them that sometimes that comes with a higher number. Right?
Right.
Here's why they may come in and not be as low as so and so or such and such.
Right.
So if you're not giving context to the fact that this small marketing company, Bright & Co., is going to be higher because they've got a higher overhead because they're a smaller organization, and you're comparing them to a larger firm like EP, of
Right.
course you can't compete.
Right.
We just can't compete, but you give the marching orders downstream to get the best number.
Right.
So at the end of the day, the deciding factor goes to the procurement manager, who is only going by the marching orders of give me the best number,
Right.
not understanding that that is not always the case if I am going to be using a minority small business, because we can't compete with a Walmart, or we can't compete with an EP, or I can't even compete with the Carolina Power, right? Like, we're not in this, we just don't have the same capabilities or access or resources in order to do that. Could I compete with another small electrical contractor? Absolutely, all day. Game ready, bring it on.
Right.
If we're not competing in the same pool of candidates, even though you sincerely want minority participation and inclusivity within your organization, if you're not attaching that with these understandings that in the fine print, you may have a higher number, but we're rising up a boat.
That's right.
That needs to be brought into this pool of candidates here that we want to support. If this is not about that, then all of it is smoking mirrors.
And less naked bodies when the tide goes out.
That's it. That's what it has to be about.
Right.
It has to be about that.
That's right. So ideas, what can we do? I mean, I know, like, we want to start a Women in Progress event series. Like just let's start it here in the state.
Yeah.
Get women together just to talk, like desensitize some of these conversations of, let's talk about, like, if you're hearing feminism is bad, why?
Yeah.
Why? If you're hearing affirmative action, one, those things aren't required anymore, so it's kind of dead. But if you hear it,
Mm-hmm.
is it bad? Like in a negative way? Like why? Like why? Let's talk about it. So you hear the different perspectives. Or look, let's help each other out. We all are looking for business. I mean, I've said that to some folks in the community. They're like, well, Jennifer, we love your business. What can we do for you? And this is, some organizations. And I was like, you're here to support the business community. I need business.
Yeah, that's all we need. That's all we want
Okay.
and we need. I'm not looking to go to dinner every night with everybody. We want to
Right. I was like, I need business. So it's like, do we bring, these like women that really want to scale and grow, and bring together and go, how can we help each other out? What are the issues that we're seeing? Is are the gender biases I'm seeing? Is it just an anomaly? Like, am I doing something different
I don't even think
that I can learn from?
it's more validation of what we already know is true. I mean, you brought the facts. We know this is true. We know that what we're feeling and what we're experiencing and what we see is true. I think we've got to find, I'm high in execution. I'm like,
I know. I'm like,
yeah, like what we need to find a way to create venture capitalist groups, right? How can we fund our own women ventures? How can we find women that are ready to start banks and help with banking? Though we have to learn how to empower our own community and start building up our own infrastructure to be able to support us. And I'm not saying eliminate men or leave them out, because there are allies, there are sponsors, there are people out here who believe in what we're doing, who have mother, daughters, and sisters who they are entrepreneurs as well, and they want to support them, and they have influence, and we want those allies at our table that we're inviting them to help us to build.
They have to be.
To help us to build an infrastructure to support one another, do business with each other, right? Like be intentional about seeking out other women, minority businesses, and doing business with them.
Right.
If nobody else should be intentional about that, we should be, right?
That's right.
If we can't expect for other people to be intentional about something that we aren't even intentional about. So yes, I'm going to call Jen. Yeah, Jen's going to call Ebony. Yeah, we're going to intentionally go look for a small business that's woman owned that we can do business with. Not because we're feminists and we think that women are better than men, but because we have to support our ecosystem. Nobody else is going to do it if we don't. So we have to teach people how to treat us by developing our own systems, that when we come into the room and we bring all of our feminine energy, the women that we're pitching to are like, yes, sister, bring it, because they understand that, right? Like, so I think we've got to just rethink our approach. Instead of breaking into somebody else's building, build our own.
That's right. Because that system exists. And we're not in that circle. So yeah.
Let's get our own.
Yes. When are you going to do it? When are you going to start?
Let's start building bridges. Conversations, Women in Progress. We're talking about how do we start up all these infrastructure resources that we need to be able to support ourselves. When we're not invited to their table, we make our own table.
That's right. All right, listeners. That's what we're going to do. Yeah. Women in Progress. Yeah. We're going to start it.
Do it.
All right. Any lasting thoughts, Ebony? Did we cover all of our, I know we could go on for a long time.
Yeah, we got a lot of things covered. And
we talked a lot about dirty words and such. Where can people reach you to connect and do business with you?
Yes. Well, I'm all over social media, Ebony Sullivan. I am the real Ebony Sullivan. So there's some others out there, but we love them too. But I'm Ebony Sullivan. I'm with Cassie Electric. We are CassieElectric.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. Our company has social media. Cassie Electric is everywhere. We do residential and commercial electrical contracting. Would love the opportunity to work with any of our listeners. And I am reached at 864-735-8882. That's our direct number to get.
You're putting in your phone number.
Oh, call me, baby. You might get Bianca instead of Ebony, but it's the right company.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this was fantastic. I think we're going to split this up. We're going to split it up in a couple episodes, but yeah, we're going to do it for you. Thanks for hanging out, Ebony.
Thank you for inviting me.
This was a good combo. I know you love my data.
Yes, I love your data.
My nerd out.
It just validates the feelings that we're all feeling. Like
That's
you're
right.
just saying, yes, girl, that's right. You're feeling.
That's right. And this is why.
This is why.
And there's a lot of others that are feeling it too.
Yes,
you're not alone.
Together. We're in this together.
Let's build the ecosystem, girl. We can do
it. Let's do it.
All right. For everyone listening or watching us live, thank you for joining us. This podcast episode will be published this coming Sunday, actually the next 2 Sundays, because we're going to break this up into 2 episodes, because this was fantastic and I don't want to lose anything. So subscribe to Hello Chaos, like and comment. You could do us a huge favor just by doing that. Help us grow and build a more connected entrepreneurial community. Hello Chaos is one of the many resources brought to you by OrangeWIP. That is OrangeWIP, WIP for Work in Progress. We are a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. Just your email to join the community. One-stop content hub just for founders in an innovative digital zine experience. We are in 3 cities in South Carolina, Greenville, Columbia, and Charleston, with goals to expand in more cities over the next 5 years. And yeah, every community needs an OrangeWIP because we do all the hard work for the ecosystem and literally is the connective tissue of that market. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or support us, send us an email to hello@orangewip.com. Thank you for tuning in to Hello Chaos. It is where aha meets oh shit. I'm your host, Jennifer Sutton, JJ, and we'll see you again next week.